The moment you stop waiting for them is the moment they start being haunted by you. That's the line nobody tells you, my friends. Not when you're up at 2 a.m. staring at your phone, not when you're wondering if they ever regret losing you. But this is where everything really flips. This video is called "This is the final sign before they regret losing you and return," for a reason. There is a final sign. There is a moment where the power shifts, where the story turns, where they feel what you felt. And spoiler alert, it doesn't start on their side, it starts on yours. Now, hey folks, imagine this. You're standing at a train station with a suitcase full of your love, your loyalty, your time. You've been waiting on the same platform for months, maybe years, for one specific train. It keeps sending signals, lights flickering in the distance, but it never actually arrives. Some days it slows down, teases you, then speeds away again. And every time it passes, it takes a little more of your hope with it. One day, you finally look around and realize there's another platform, there are other trains, there's even a whole city behind you you've never explored because you were too busy staring at that one track. That moment where you stop facing the tracks and turn toward your own life. That, my friends, is the beginning of the final sign. We've been sold a lie. We're taught that the last chapter before they regret losing you is dramatic. We think it's the long apology, the drunk call, the "I messed up, I miss you" confession. We think the sign is them crawling back. But here's the truth, and it's a bit hard to swallow. The final sign before they regret losing you is not about what they do. It's about what you finally stop doing. Like Marcus Aurelius said, your power is in your mind, not in the hands of others. The moment you stop letting their attention decide your value, everything changes. When you stop chasing, stop rehearsing speeches in your head, stop checking if they saw your story, that's when the universe quietly flips the script. Picture this. For the longest time, your heart was like a radio stuck on one station, them. Every song, every memory, every silence tuned back to their name. But then slowly, you start turning the dial. You find new music, new peace, new thoughts that don't revolve around whether they text back or not. That shift, that internal turn of the dial, that's the final sign. Because when your energy stops bending around them, their ego feels the gap. They were used to being the sun. Suddenly, you're not orbiting anymore. And listen, I'm not here to sugarcoat anything. This isn't about playing games. We're not doing no contact just to bait them. We're not pretending we don't care while secretly obsessing over their last scene. Real Stoicism is different. It's calm, it's honest. It's you saying, "I cared, I tried, but I'm done sacrificing my peace for someone who treats my heart like a backup plan." A little fun truth. The moment you stop stalking their profile is usually the moment they start stalking yours. Not because the universe is a comedian, though sometimes it is, but because energy is real. When you pull yours back, they feel the silence they created. When you stop standing at that station, they finally notice the platform is empty. So stay with me, my friends. In this video, we're going to walk through that final sign in detail, what it looks like, what it feels like in your body, and why it almost always pulls them back right when you've stopped needing them to. And before we go deeper, I want you to write something powerful in the comments to lock this in. I choose my peace. 3 words, simple, strong. Type it below so your future self can come back and see the exact day you chose yourself. If this already hits home, press the like button, subscribe to the channel, and stay with me, because what's coming next might be the exact perspective that finally sets you free. Number 1. When your energy shifts from chasing to choosing. The day you stop running after them is the day they start running from themselves. That one hurts a little, doesn't it, my friends? Because deep down you know it's true. For so long you've been sprinting emotionally, trying to keep a connection alive that you did not break alone. Texting first, apologizing first, fixing first, worrying first. Your whole nervous system wired around the fear of, what if I lose them? While they walked around with the comfort of, what if I don't? Imagine this. You're holding a rope with both hands, pulling with everything you've got. On the other side, they're barely gripping it, giving small tugs when they're bored, loosening their fingers when they're distracted. Every time you feel the rope slipping, you panic and pull harder. You think, if I just try one more time, if I explain it better, if I show them I'm loyal, they'll finally see my worth. But here's the twisted part no one tells you. They're not testing your love, they're testing their power. They're not wondering, do they care about me? They're wondering, how far can I push before they finally let go? And you, my friend, are tired. You may not say it out loud, but your soul feels bruised. You ask yourself questions at night that you never admit in the daylight. Why am I always the one holding things together? Why do I feel afraid to stop trying? What if the moment I pull back is the exact moment they were going to finally choose me? That's the fear, isn't it? The fear that if you stop chasing, you'll miss your chance at the fairy tale ending. That if you stop pulling the rope, they'll just drop it and walk away like nothing ever happened. We've been programmed with a lie that love is proven by how much you can endure, that the one who holds on the longest is the most loyal, that sacrifice equals worthiness. But Stoicism, real emotional wisdom, says something very different. It says, you are not strong because you can suffer. You are strong when you can let go of what dishonors you. Think of your energy like water. Every time you chase, explain, overthink, you are pouring it into a cup with holes. You can't understand why you feel so empty, so anxious, so drained, but the truth is brutal and simple. You are watering someone's ego, not your own growth. You think you're investing into a future together, but half the time you're just funding their comfort. Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. Most people read that and nod, but very few actually live it. Because to live it, you have to face a hard reality. You cannot control whether they choose you, but you can control whether you keep offering yourself to someone who doesn't. Let's be honest, folks. Stopping the chase feels like standing at the edge of a cliff. Your mind screams, if I don't message them, they'll forget me. If I don't show up, they'll replace me. If I act like I don't care, they'll think I never did. Your fear paints the worst-case scenario so vividly, you forget there's another possibility, that you might be free. You've been taught to measure your value by their reaction. No reply. You must not be enough. Short reply. You must have done something wrong. Delayed reply. They must be losing interest, and it must be your fault. You've made their inconsistency a mirror, and every time they pull away, you tell yourself a story. I need to try harder. But here's the truth bomb, my friend. Your effort is not the problem. Your direction is. When your energy shifts from chasing to choosing, you don't suddenly stop caring. You simply start caring about yourself too. That's what scares people who are used to you pouring everything into them. You no longer jump at every breadcrumb. You no longer feel proud of being always available. You stop drowning just to prove you can swim. It will feel uncomfortable at first, almost wrong, like you're breaking some unspoken rule. Your mind will whisper, message them just once. Check their profile, see what they're doing. Maybe they're just busy. Maybe you're overreacting. That's the old programming fighting for its life. The part of you that was trained to accept emotional crumbs as a 5-star meal. But slowly, something starts to shift. The rope you were clenching starts to burn your hands less because you're not gripping it with the same desperation. You wake up one morning and your first thought isn't, "Did they text?" It's, "What do I need today?" And yes, it may be a small thought, but that's how revolutions begin, one quiet decision at a time. You will doubt yourself. You will feel waves of guilt. You will have moments where you miss them so intensely that your heart feels physical pressure. You'll stare at the chat box, fingers hovering, ready to break your own boundaries. In those moments, remember this: chasing them never brought you peace. It only delayed your pain. The hardest part of this shift is grieving the fantasy. The idea that if you just behaved perfectly, loved deeply enough, tolerated long enough, they would one day wake up and realize you were the one. But here's the hard truth wrapped in love. If someone needs you to break yourself just to see your value, they were never your safe place to begin with. You ask, "Why do I think like this? Why am I so afraid to stop?" Because somewhere along the way, you learned that other people's affection is a prize you have to work for, not something that should meet you halfway. You learned to confuse emotional begging with devotion. You were taught to believe that if they leave, it's because you weren't enough, not because they weren't ready. My friends, the moment your energy shifts from chasing to choosing, you stop auditioning for a role in someone's life and start living as the main character in your own. You rise from fear by accepting this simple, painful, freeing truth. If your presence, your heart, your effort didn't make them choose you when you were giving everything, your silence will not suddenly erase your worth. It will only reveal it to the one person who truly needed to see it: you. One day they will feel the difference. They will go to pull the rope and realize there's no tension on the other side. They will send a message and feel the gap in your reply. They will sense that your world no longer spins around them, and their ego will start to itch. That's when regret begins, and that's when their journey starts. But your journey, your real journey, starts the day you stop running behind someone who was walking away. To lock this in, I want you to write something strong in the comments, not just for them, but for you, for your past and your future, and for the world watching you rise. I choose my power. 3 words. Type it. Show them. Show yourself. Show the world around you that your chasing era is over and your choosing era has begun. And stay with me, because in the next part, we're going to talk about what happens on their side when your energy really changes, when the silence they thought they controlled suddenly starts controlling them. Number 2, their illusion of control starts to crack in silence. The scariest moment for someone who thought they owned your emotions is when they realize you've stopped reacting. That's the shockwave they never prepared for, my friends. Because as long as you were chasing, apologizing, and over-explaining, they were relaxed. They felt safe, not in love, but in control. They believed, no matter what I do, they'll always be there. That wasn't love speaking. That was ego, sitting on a throne you helped build with your effort, your anxiety, and your fear of losing them. Imagine this with me, folks. Picture a person standing in front of a light switch. For the longest time, that switch is you. Every time they feel bored, lonely, insecure, or curious, they flip it on. They send a "hey" after days of silence, and instantly your light comes on. Your attention, your replies, your emotional energy. When they're busy or distracted, they flip the switch off. No replies, no effort, no presence. The room goes dark, but they don't care, because they assume whenever I want, I can just switch it back on again. Now imagine one day they go to flip that switch and nothing happens. No light, no warmth, no quick response, just stillness, just silence. That moment right there is when their illusion of control starts to crack. Not when you cry, not when you beg, not when you explain your pain for the 10th time. It cracks when their usual moves stop working. They were never afraid of losing you. They were afraid of losing access to you. There's a big difference. As long as your emotions were on demand, they could play hero or villain whenever it suited them. They could disappear, knowing you'd still be there when they decided to reappear. In their mind, your heart was their emotional storage unit. They could drop their feelings off, leave, then return later and pick things back up like nothing happened. But when your energy shifts and your silence becomes real, not fake, not game playing, not "I'll ignore them for 3 days so they chase me," I mean real, calm, grounded silence, their system gets confused. They send the casual message, "Hey, how have you been?" expecting the old version of you to light up. But your reply is slow, short, grounded, or sometimes there's no reply at all. Questions start crawling into their mind, questions they're not used to facing. Did I push too far? Are they talking to someone else? Did I lose them? Why does this not feel the same anymore? The same anxiety that used to live in your chest now moves into theirs, slowly, quietly, like a storm building behind their forehead. Here's the part most people don't see. They don't panic right away. At first, they tell themselves stories to protect their ego. They're just busy. They're just trying to act strong. Give it a few days, they'll come back. They underestimate you because they've been trained by your old behavior. They're used to you breaking first. But silence has a way of aging quickly when it's not under their control. Days pass. You don't chase. You don't double text. You're not posting for their attention. You're not orbiting them like a satellite anymore. And whether they admit it or not, something begins to feel off. They don't feel as powerful as they used to. The switch they took for granted doesn't respond like it used to. Folks, understand this clearly. People who play with your emotions are addicted to the feeling of control, not the feeling of connection. They like knowing you're available. They like knowing they can trigger you. They like watching how deeply you care while they stay half invested. So when you stop reacting, they aren't just confused, they're threatened. They might play it off at first, post louder, act happier, show off their new life, their new person, their new peace. But performance doesn't erase the truth. Even while they're pretending not to notice, they feel the difference in your energy. Your silence hangs like a question mark over every scene of their day. Why isn't this working anymore? That's when ego starts pacing. They might tell their friends, "Oh, they're just being dramatic." They might laugh it off, go out more, talk to new people, anything to prove to themselves they're unaffected. But late at night, when the show ends and the lights are off, it hits. The person they were so sure they could keep in their orbit is slowly drifting out of reach. This is why it's difficult for you, my friends. A part of you still thinks, if I stay silent, they'll just move on. If I stop reacting, they'll think I don't care. If I don't show them I'm still here, they'll never regret it. You've been conditioned to believe that your emotional availability is your value, that surrendering your boundaries equals true love. But real Stoic wisdom cuts through that lie. Your value does not increase by how much of yourself you sacrifice. Your value shows when you're willing to walk away from what keeps wounding you. You aren't here to be someone's emotional toy. You are not a light switch. You are not a backup battery. When their illusion of control cracks, you might notice weird behavior. They'll send mixed signals, little tests, a random heart emoji, a joke, a memory, maybe even a "you changed." Of course you did. You were never meant to stay stuck in the same emotional place that almost destroyed you. The beautiful, terrifying part of this phase is that both of you are finally seeing reality at the same time. They see they never really had the power they thought they did. You see you never needed to chase the way you did. Fear tries to pull you back. What if I lose them for good? But my friend, if control was all they ever had over you, what are you really losing? This is the beginning of balance returning. You are no longer the only one feeling the weight of uncertainty. They feel it too. The old script isn't working. The game has changed, not because they decided to change it, but because you finally stopped playing. To lock this into your spirit, I want you to write a new truth in the comments. Not just for them, but for the you who used to flinch every time they pulled away. Write this. I am no longer their puppet. Type it. Show yourself. Show the world around you. Let it be a declaration that their illusion of control ends where your self-respect begins. And stay with me, because next we're going deeper into the moment your nervous system finally stops waiting for them and how that quiet internal shift becomes the loudest message they will ever feel. Number 3, when your nervous system finally stops waiting for them. The real freedom doesn't begin when they leave. It begins when your body stops expecting them to come back. That one hits different, doesn't it, my friends? Because it's one thing to say, I'm done with them, and another thing entirely for your mind, your heart, and your nervous system to actually believe it. For a long time, you didn't just miss them in your thoughts. You missed them in your body. Your chest went tight when you saw their name. Your stomach dropped when they didn't reply. Your heart raced at every notification like it was the verdict on your worth. Let's be honest, folks. Your phone wasn't just a device. It was an emotional slot machine. Every time it lit up, you pulled that lever in your mind. Is it them? Is it not? Did they finally realize something? Are they still ignoring me? Dopamine, disappointment, anxiety, hope. It all lived in that tiny screen. You didn't even need their message anymore to feel stressed. Just the possibility of it was enough to keep your nervous system on edge. Imagine standing guard at a door 24/7, waiting for one person to walk through it. You don't sleep properly. You don't sit properly. You don't live fully. You're always half present, half distracted, because a part of you is constantly listening for footsteps. That's what your nervous system was doing, standing guard for them. You'd tell yourself, I'm okay, I'm over it. But then you'd hear a notification sound and feel that sharp jolt in your chest. You'd see a car that looks like theirs and feel your stomach twist. You'd open social media and unconsciously type their name in the search bar. You weren't choosing these reactions, they were just happening. That's how deep the connection had sunk into your body. There's this quote I love. The body keeps the score. It remembers what your mind tries to forget. Even after they're gone, your nervous system is still waiting for the story to finish, still checking if they returned, still hoping for a better ending than the one they gave you. So when we talk about the final sign before they regret losing you, this is a big one. The day your nervous system stops waiting at that door. The day your body stops jumping at every sound, every ping, every memory. The day you can look at your phone and feel calm. Not excitement, not panic, just calm. At first, it doesn't feel like a victory. It feels strange, almost empty. You might even wonder if something is wrong with you. Why don't I feel that rush anymore? Why doesn't my heart race when I see their name? Have I become cold? Does this mean I never really loved them? No, my friend. It means you are healing. It means your system is rebooting. It means your peace is finally louder than your fear. Think of your nervous system like a fire alarm that's been going off non-stop. Even when there was no fire, the sound just kept screaming. danger, danger, danger every time their energy came near your life. You grew used to living in that noise. You thought it was normal to feel anxious, hyper-aware, uneasy all the time. But then slowly, as you pull your focus back to yourself, the alarm starts to quiet down. First it goes from a scream to a buzz, then from a buzz to a whisper. Then one day, you walk into the same room, the memories, the places, the phone, the notifications, and there's no sound at all. Just silence, just you, just your breath. That's when the final sign shows up, not as a moment of fireworks, but as a moment of peace. The kind of peace you didn't know you could feel after everything you went through. There's a fear that comes with this peace too. The fear of, if I stop caring this much, does it mean they never mattered? The brain loves to make everything dramatic. But listen, folks, it's not that they never mattered. It's that your survival no longer depends on their attention. They were a chapter. You were the whole book. Stoicism teaches this. You don't erase your emotions. You learn not to be ruled by them. You might notice small signs that your system is letting go. You go a full day without checking their profile. You hear a song that used to hurt and realize it doesn't sting the same way anymore. You see a message and don't feel the need to reply right away. You go to sleep without that heavy, spinning feeling in your chest. These are not nothing moments. These are proof that your body is finally stepping out of fight or flight mode. And here's the part they will feel, whether they admit it or not. When your nervous system stops waiting for them, your energy changes. You don't radiate that invisible question anymore. Will you pick me? You carry a different signal. I already chose myself. And trust me, they will sense it. Even through a screen, even across distance, even in silence. Where you once used to feel unstable without them, you now feel oddly steady. Not perfect, not emotionless, just steady. You can miss the memories without wanting to relive the pain. You can acknowledge what happened without letting it define who you are now. You can think of them without your whole body going into crisis mode. That's not indifference, that's emotional maturity, that's growth. It won't always be linear. Some days the old anxiety might flare up. Some nights you might still feel that ache. That doesn't mean you're back at zero, it just means you're human. Healing isn't about never feeling anything again, it's about being able to feel without collapsing. The final sign is not that they regret you in some dramatic Hollywood moment. The final sign is that your system no longer shakes when you hear their name. That's when the universe quietly flips the script. Because the minute your nervous system releases them, the balance of power changes. You're no longer unconsciously calling them in with your fear. Instead, you're standing in your own lane, solid, breathing, present. And here's the quiet magic. When you stop waiting for them, they start feeling the weight of their own choices. For the first time, there is no emotional cushion, no guaranteed reassurance, no familiar energy waiting on the other side of their hey, only the echo of their actions. That's when regret doesn't just knock, it moves in. To anchor this shift inside you, I want you to write this in the comments for your body, your mind, your future, and for anyone reading who needs courage. My peace is my home. Type it. Show yourself. Show the world around you that your nervous system is allowed to rest now, that you are not a prisoner of someone else's presence or absence anymore. And stay with me, because next we're going to talk about what life starts doing on their side once your peace becomes real. How the world begins reflecting your absence back to them in ways they can't outrun. Number 4, life starts reflecting the loss back to them. Life has a cruel kindness. It doesn't let people walk away from what they took for granted without showing them exactly what they lost. That's where they are headed, my friends. Not into a peaceful, happily ever after where they barely remember you, but into a world where your absence keeps showing up in places they didn't expect. Because once your nervous system stops waiting, once your energy pulls back, life quietly picks up the rest of the lesson. And trust me, it knows exactly how to teach. At first, they think they've got it all under control. They tell themselves the usual lines. It's better this way, I needed space, they were too emotional, someone else will fit me better. Ego loves writing a story where it's always the hero, never the fool. They decorate that story with loud laughs, new posts, new people, new distractions. If you look from the outside, it might even seem like they're thriving. But here's where reality starts working behind the scenes. Picture this, folks. They're driving one day, music playing, mind half distracted. A song comes on that you once played for them. They recognize the first few notes and their chest tightens. Not enough to break them, just enough to remind them. Suddenly, the road in front of them looks a little blurred. They remember a moment, a car ride, a laugh, a look you gave them when you still believed they'd choose you properly. The light turns green, but something in them hesitates for a second longer than usual. That hesitation, that's life whispering. Remember? It keeps happening, little ambushes of memory. They see someone wearing your style. They walk past a place you went together. They hear a phrase that sounds exactly like something you once said. Life doesn't need a schedule. It just drops these reminders like quiet bombs in the middle of their day. They'll shake it off at first. It's nothing, just a memory. I've moved on. They'll push it down with more noise, more scrolling, more distraction. But the more they try to outrun it, the more it follows. Because once life starts reflecting the loss back to them, it's not just about missing you. It's about seeing themselves clearly. For the first time, they start replaying their own behavior in their head. The times they ignored you, the moments they brushed off your feelings, the days you tried to talk and they chose silence. They remember the last message you sent that felt like a door slightly closing, and how they walked past it like it was no big deal. They remember the steadiness you brought and how they treated it like a free subscription that would never expire. And here's the part that stings them the most. They start noticing the difference between what they had with you and what they have now. The new people might be fun, attractive, distracting, but they don't bring the same calm. They don't listen the way you did. They don't understand the small details that you always picked up on without being told. Conversations feel more shallow. The laughs feel a little louder than necessary, like trying to cover up a quiet discomfort underneath. Life is not punishing them, it's mirroring. Stoicism teaches that we all eventually meet the consequences of our choices, not because the universe is cruel, but because it is honest. You cannot treat something rare like it's common and expect to feel fulfilled when it's gone. They might scroll through their phone one night, land on your name, and just stare at it. Thumb hovering, thoughts racing. Should I text? What would I even say? What if they don't respond? What if they moved on? The same type of mental storm you used to drown in, they now start tasting for the first time. Here's where it gets uncomfortable for you, my friend. Part of you might feel tempted to feel sorry for them, to think, maybe they didn't realize. Maybe I should help them understand. Maybe this is my chance to fix everything. That's your old pattern trying to wake back up. The part of you that used to take responsibility for both people's feelings in the relationship. But remember this, life reflecting the loss back to them is not your job. It's not your assignment to rescue them from their own lessons. You tried, you talked, you explained, you gave them chances. There comes a point where your only responsibility is to yourself and the future you are building. Sometimes the reason it's so hard to move on is because you can feel this shift coming. You sense it. You feel that someday they're going to wake up and see what you were really worth. And a part of you doesn't want to miss that moment. You want to be there to hear, "You were right, and I'm sorry, and I should have treated you better." But here's the paradox. The moment you no longer need that sentence is usually the moment life finally makes them understand it. Not because you waited, but because you stopped. Life shows them your value in silence, in contrast, in the emptiness where your presence used to sit. They go to lean on you, even in their mind, and there's nothing there. No instant reassurance, no guaranteed emotional home. Just an echo. Just the memory of how easy you were to reach, and how hard you chose to become once you saw the truth. And slowly, regret shifts from "I miss the attention" to "I mishandled something real." That's a different kind of regret. Deeper, heavier. The kind that doesn't go away with a new date or a weekend distraction. The kind that lives under the ribs. Through all of this, your job is not to sit and wait for their realization. Your job is to evolve while they're learning what they lost. To build a life so anchored that by the time life finishes teaching them, you are no longer standing where they left you. To anchor this truth, I want you to write something powerful in the comments. For you, for them, and for the world that once made you doubt yourself. Life will show my worth. Type it. Show yourself. Show the world around you that you no longer need to prove your value. It will reveal itself in time, to the right eyes, in the right way. And stay with me, because next we're going to shift the camera back to you, into the moment where your silence stops feeling like punishment and finally becomes your protection, your boundary, and your quiet superpower. Number 5. Your silence stops feeling like punishment and becomes protection. Silence stops hurting the moment you realize it's not a weapon against them, it's armor for you. That one cuts close, doesn't it, my friends? Because at the beginning, your silence didn't feel powerful at all. It felt like you were punishing yourself. It felt like you were holding your breath underwater, waiting to see who would break first. You weren't calm. You were terrified. Terrified that if you stopped speaking, stopped checking in, stopped explaining, they would simply forget you existed and walk away without looking back. Let's be honest, folks. That first step into silence feels like stepping into a dark room and closing the door behind you. You keep reaching for the light switch of old habits, sending that "just checking on you" text, reacting to their story, asking if everything's okay. Those habits aren't just emotional, they're survival patterns. You learn to keep peace by constantly reaching out, smoothing things over, proving you cared. You tell yourself, "I'm going silent for my peace," but your heart is still secretly watching the clock. What if they think I don't care? What if they move on? What if they never contact me again? Silence feels like a gamble, and you're betting with your heart. We were taught another lie here, that silence is immature, toxic, childish, that if you don't keep talking, fixing, explaining, you're the problem. That saying less means you're cold, heartless, dramatic. Meanwhile, you spent months or years pouring out paragraphs to someone who never really listened, never really changed, never really met you in the middle. Here's the truth, my friends. Silence is not cruel when words have stopped working. It is not toxic when your voice has been repeatedly ignored. At some point, silence becomes the only language self-respect speaks. Imagine your heart as a house. For the longest time, you left the front door wide open, no filter, no lock. Anyone could walk in, drop their emotional baggage, take what they wanted, and leave whenever they felt like it. You didn't love like a home. You loved like a hotel with endless vacancies and no checkout policy. Silence is when you finally walk to that door and gently, firmly close it. You don't slam it. You don't scream behind it. You don't stand at the peephole all day. You just close it. You lock it. You tell yourself, not everyone gets access anymore. Not everyone gets to knock whenever they feel like it and expect me to be available. At first, that closed door feels wrong. Your old guilt will start knocking. You're being harsh. You're pushing them away. Maybe if you just tried one more time. But slowly, you begin to notice something. When the door stays closed, the chaos stays outside. Your energy stops leaking. The constant emotional drafts stop chilling your peace. There's a quote that fits this shift perfectly. You are not shutting people out. You are shutting chaos out. That's what your silence is. Not an act of war, but an act of protection. Not a punishment for them, but a promise to yourself. I refuse to keep explaining my worth to people who benefit from acting like they don't see it. You'll face some inner battles during this stage. There will be days when you miss them so deeply you want to throw the door wide open and pretend nothing ever happened. There will be nights when the silence feels so loud, you almost break it just to hear something, anything. You might even start rewriting history in your head. Maybe it wasn't that bad. Maybe I overreacted. Maybe I was too sensitive. That's not clarity, that's withdrawal. You're detoxing from the drug of dysfunction, and your mind is craving its old hit of chaos and crumbs. But every time you resist that urge to reach out just to soothe anxiety, your silence transforms a little more. It shifts from feeling like a cage to feeling like a shield. You start realizing something powerful. You are not ignoring them. You are choosing you. You're not withholding love. You're refusing to spend it where it's misused. You're not closing your heart. You're closing the revolving door. And they feel it, even if they pretend not to. They were used to your silence being temporary. A few angry hours, a dramatic day, then right back to answering, explaining, softening. They saw your quiet as a pause button, not a boundary. But this time it's different. This time your silence doesn't come with a countdown. It comes with conviction. You're not sitting by the phone anymore, measuring your worth by whether they call. You're not stalking their profile to interpret signs like a detective of your own heartbreak. You're redirecting that energy into your goals, into your routines, into your healing. Your focus starts to move from what are they thinking to who am I becoming? And that's the moment your silence fully changes form. It stops feeling like you're losing them and starts feeling like you're finding yourself. Will it hurt sometimes? Absolutely. Growth always stings where the old wounds used to live. But now, the pain leads somewhere. You're not bleeding out for nothing. You're breaking patterns that nearly broke you. You're choosing a future where your peace isn't constantly negotiated. This is why it's hard, because your identity was tangled with being the one who always reached out, always cared, always forgave. Letting that version of you retire feels like a small death, but every ending is a doorway. Stoicism reminds us, it's not what happens outside you, but what you choose to build inside you that defines your life. One day, you'll notice it. You'll hear their name, see something that reminds you of them, and instead of a sharp stab in your chest, you'll feel a soft sadness and a stronger sense of gratitude for how far you've come. Your silence will no longer feel like a war zone. It will feel like a sanctuary. And while you're inside this new sanctuary, rebuilding your sense of self, just know this. Outside, on their side, the silence they thought they controlled has started to turn against them. It's making them restless. It's making them question. It's making them test cracks in doors that are no longer open the way they remember. To lock this shift into your story, I want you to write something bold in the comments. Not for them, but for you, for your past self who kept knocking on the wrong doors, and for your future self who refuses to. My silence protects me. Type it, show them, show yourself. Show the world around you that your quiet is no longer a cry for help. It's a declaration of self-respect. And stay with me, because next we're stepping into their side of the storm, into the phase where their ego starts to panic and they begin testing your boundaries, one innocent message at a time. Number 6, their ego panics and starts testing your boundaries. The moment you stop dancing to their tune is the moment their ego starts turning up the volume. That's when things get interesting, my friends. Up until now, they were comfortable. They had a quiet confidence. No matter what I do, they'll always be there. I can take my time. I can come and go. They'll forgive. They'll explain. They'll stay. Your chasing, your over-explaining, your endless chances were like a soft pillow under their ego. It never had to hit the floor. But when your silence becomes real and your boundaries stop shaking, their ego feels something it hasn't felt in a long time. Insecurity. That's when the panic begins. Not always loud, not always visible, but it's there. Picture this, folks. Imagine them as a person holding a TV remote that used to control you. Volume up, they start a fight, and you react. Volume down, they pull away, and you chase. Mute, they disappear, and you spiral. For the longest time, every button they pressed got a predictable response. It made them feel powerful, even if they never admitted it. Now imagine one day they press the button, and nothing happens. No argument, no long paragraph, no emotional breakdown, no follow-up message, just silence, just your boundary staying exactly where you placed it. That's when their ego looks at the remote and thinks, "Wait, is this broken?" No, my friend, the remote isn't broken. You just stopped being the TV. This is where the testing begins. It doesn't always start with grand gestures. It starts with something small and harmless looking. Hey stranger, you've been quiet. A random reaction to a week's old story. An inside joke you two used to share. To anyone else, it looks innocent. But you know better. It's not conversation, it's a probe. It's them trying to see if the door they used to walk through without knocking is still unlocked. Their inner script goes something like, "Let me just see if I still have them." And here come the questions in your mind. Is this them changing? Is this them realizing? Should I answer? What does this mean? You can feel your heart speed up. Old reflexes wake up. That part of you that used to get crumbs and turn them into a feast whispers, "This could be the moment. Don't ruin it." We need to break a lie right here. Their first contact is not always repentance. Sometimes it's just ego maintenance. Stoicism reminds us, don't judge by words alone, judge by patterns. A message doesn't erase months of behavior. A hey doesn't cancel out the nights you cried yourself to sleep. A little effort now doesn't automatically mean they're ready to value you. So what do they do when the first test doesn't give them what they want? When you respond calmly instead of anxiously? When you take your time instead of dropping everything? When your answer is neutral instead of desperate? Their ego gets louder. You'll see it in little ways. A sudden post clearly aimed at making you jealous. A story featuring someone new, just a bit too obvious. A quote about fake people, or outgrowing certain energies that just happens to line up with your silence. Part of you might even laugh because it's so dramatic. Another part of you might feel that old sting. Are they happier without me? Are they trying to show me I didn't matter? My friends, that's not happiness, that's theater. When someone is truly at peace, they don't need an audience. When someone is truly over you, they don't need you to see how over you they are. Real closure is quiet. Performances are loud. Their ego is used to winning. It's used to getting a reaction from you: anger, hurt, confusion, anything. Silence is the one thing it doesn't know what to do with. So it starts changing tactics. One moment they're cold, the next they're sentimental. One day distant, the next day nostalgic. It's like watching someone flip through emotional costumes, trying to see which one gets the response they miss. And here's why this phase is dangerous for you. It hits the oldest wound inside you, the need to finally be chosen. You think, if I respond the right way, maybe this time it will be different. Maybe this time they'll understand. Maybe this is the doorway to a better version of us. But Stoic wisdom cuts through that fog. If they're only panicking now that your energy is gone, they're not mourning the relationship, they're mourning their control. Someone who truly wakes up to their own behavior doesn't just test you, they take responsibility. Their words carry weight, their actions carry consistency. Their apology isn't a hook, it's a mirror. You may be tempted to soften your boundaries just to ease the tension inside you, to answer faster, to reassure them, to prove you're not bitter. But remember, your boundary is not a punishment. It is not you being childish. It is a line that says, I will no longer bleed for someone who only shows up when they're afraid of losing access to me. Watch what happens when you hold that line. When you reply, if you choose to, with calm instead of chaos. When you don't jump to meet them in the old familiar place. When you don't over-explain your silence. Their ego takes a hit, not because you're cruel, but because you're no longer predictable. The power dynamic starts to level out. They have to sit with their discomfort instead of dumping it on you. They have to deal with their questions instead of making you answer all of them. They have to feel the distance they created, now reflected back without you rushing to close it. It is not easy. Your nervous system will shake sometimes. Your mind will invent fantasies where you drop your boundary and everything magically fixes itself. But every time you stay grounded, every time you choose peace over panic, you are teaching your heart a new truth. I can miss someone and still protect myself. One day they may realize they can't get to you the way they used to. They can't pull your strings. They can't summon your emotions on demand. And that is when their ego really starts to fracture, because nothing terrifies a controlling heart more than losing access to the one person who used to respond to every single breadcrumb. To anchor this phase into your spirit, I want you to write something strong in the comments, not just for them, but as a promise to yourself and a message to your future. I honor my boundaries. 3 words. Type it, show them, show yourself, show the world around you that even when their ego panics, your peace will not. And stay with me, because next we'll step into the most powerful shift of all, the moment you respond with neutrality instead of need, and how that calm, steady energy becomes the final proof that you're no longer who they left behind. Number 7, they come back. But you're no longer where they left you. Sometimes the real plot twist isn't that they return. It's that you've already outgrown the version of you they're looking for. That's the part nobody prepares you for, my friends. Everybody talks about the moment they finally text, the moment they finally say, I miss you, the moment their pride cracks and they reach out. You imagine that scene like a movie in your head over and over, wondering how it will feel, what you'll say, how the world will suddenly make sense again. But no one tells you the truth. By the time they circle back, if you've really done the work, you're not the same person they walked away from, and that changes everything. After all the silent nights, after the tight-chested mornings, after the endless overthinking you had to untangle, there comes a day where your phone lights up and there it is, the message you used to beg the universe for. Hey, can we talk? I've been thinking about you. I'm sorry for how I acted. Maybe it's a long paragraph, maybe it's something small and clumsy, but the energy is clear. They feel the loss now. The regret has finally caught up. Once upon a time, that message would have sent you into orbit. Heart racing, hands shaking, rereading it 50 times, running to your friends asking what it means. You would have dropped everything, cancelled your plans, torn down your boundaries just to make space for them again. But this time, something's different. You read it, and you are calm, not cold, not numb, just calm. It feels almost surreal. You catch yourself thinking, a few months ago, this would have destroyed me or carried me. Now, I'm okay. That's not indifference. That's healing. That's what happens when your nervous system stops living on standby and your silence becomes your protection. You're not desperate for their words anymore because you're no longer starving. You've been feeding yourself peace, purpose, truth. Imagine you were once standing outside their house in the rain, knocking on the door, waiting to be let in. They ignored the door, looked out the window, maybe even laughed and walked away. You stood there soaked, shivering, hoping. Then one day, you finally left. You walked home. You built your own place. It wasn't perfect at first, but you painted the walls with your growth, furnished it with your peace, decorated it with your boundaries. Now, after all this time, they show up at your old spot, the doorstep in the rain, ready to finally open the door. And they realize you're not standing there anymore. That's what this moment really is. Their apology, their regret, their "I've changed" doesn't hit the same because you're not emotionally sleeping on their porch anymore. You're standing in a home you built inside yourself. They will feel the difference quickly. They'll notice it in your tone, in your timing, in your boundaries. You don't rush. You don't gush. You don't trip over yourself to prove you're still available. You might respond, you might not. You might agree to talk, but from a place of clarity, not craving, and that unsettles them more than your silence ever did. Questions begin circling in their mind. Why are they so calm? Do they still care? Did they move on? Who are they now? The same confusion they once put you through now echoes on their side. But here's the key. You're not out to hurt them. You're not playing games. You're not pretending to be strong. You actually are. That's the difference. Stoicism isn't about acting unbothered. It's about being so grounded that their presence or absence doesn't shake your foundation anymore. And yes, part of you may still feel something. Memories don't vaporize. You might remember the good moments, the laughs, the times you felt close. You might feel that old pull. But now, there's something stronger standing beside those feelings. Self-respect. You can love the memory of someone and still refuse to relive the version of yourself that had to beg for basic care. This is where the old lie tries to sneak back in. If I don't fully open up again, I'm being cold. If I don't give them another full chance, I'm unforgiving. Maybe this is our big romantic comeback. But that's not always the truth. Sometimes their return is not your fairy tale ending, it's your final exam. Life asking, did you really learn? Do you really know your worth now? Will you choose peace over history? You're allowed to listen. You're allowed to hear them out. You're allowed to see if their actions match their words. But you're no longer obligated to hand them the same access they once mishandled. You've outgrown the version of you that needed their validation to feel whole. Now your question isn't, do they want me back? It's, do they deserve the evolved version of me? And sometimes, the bravest, most stoic answer is no. Not from anger, not from spite, but from deep clarity. You realize that the person they're finally ready for no longer exists in that old form. You've become someone who doesn't negotiate their worth. someone who doesn't beg to be chosen, someone who knows that love without respect is just emotional chaos in disguise. This is the real, final sign before, during, and after their regret, when they return and you realize you don't need them to, not because you're heartless, but because you've built a life that doesn't collapse without their presence. You've become the version of yourself they never thought you'd reach, the version they only recognize when it's too late to have you in the same way. So what do you do with this moment? You use it as evidence. Evidence that your hard nights meant something, that your silence wasn't wasted, that your healing was real. Whether you close the door gently, reopen it with boundaries, or choose to keep a kind distance, let it be a choice made from strength, not from fear of being alone. My friends, if this journey spoke to you, if you felt yourself in these words, I want you to do 3 things. First, write this in the comments as your final declaration, for you, for the past, and for everything you're walking into. I have outgrown my old self. Type it. Show yourself. Show the world around you that you're not going back to the version of you that begged for the bare minimum. Second, if this message hit your heart, press the like button. It tells the algorithm this kind of healing, stoic, honest truth needs to reach more people who are silently breaking and rebuilding. Third, subscribe to the channel and share this video with someone who's still standing in the rain outside the wrong door. Let them know they're not crazy, they're not weak, they're just one decision away from stepping into their own power. And if you feel moved to support this work and keep these messages alive, you can tap the Super Thanks button and contribute in whatever way feels right for you. You're not the same person who started this video. You're stronger, clearer, more awake. Remember this, you don't rise with noise, you rise with clarity. And you, my friend, are rising.